but it's something I sign off on.
County motor pool.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's great. Which reminds me,
So to that end, maybe we take 50,000 of what we were gonna put in the services not otherwise classified of this, what we've got, put it in that line item for 2025. But I think we should consider still pulling some money from the fund balance this year to pay off some of those leases. I don't think we ought to spend 260 to pay all of it off, but I think we could spend 100 to pay part of it.
I agree with that.
Are you good if
You
Kate and
guys
I
good
just
with
work
that?
on that?
yeah. So I,
So Kate, bring back to one of our next meetings the transfer of funds from the fund balance to pay off
Enterprise.
the enterprise and the ambulance.
for
From this
you
year's
wanna-
fund. It has nothing to do with 2025.
Okay, you wanna
It'll
be
from
a budget
2024.
adjustment.
We'll
Okay.
have to do a budget adjustment, but
You
let's
just
put that-
made Penny very happy. I asked Erin to come down in case you want to talk to her about the,
That would be great, but we are over time.
I don't
But
think Carrie's
we
gonna
could
take
give
it.
you a very quick.
Yeah.
We're having some discussion on a couple of things. Our facilities, as you know, are getting very full in this building. We're looking at some options. Replacing the building entirely is probably not a short-term solution. Long-term, that's where we'd like to go, but short-term, that won't work. One of the options we've discussed is the possibility of adding a new auditorium space to the library structure and then converting this auditorium into office space that we can use to expand here. There's also been some discussion on, we have some space obviously over there in the senior center that's not being utilized as much as it probably could be. And I know that there's some updates that you'd like to make to the library itself. So we're gonna try to put a little more money in capital improvement fund this year to try to help with all of the above. We do have some funds available potentially from the general fund that could help with that. And I know you've got a little bit of funds in your fund balance that could help with some of that too. Commissioner Anderson suggested maybe we get with an architect and try to work up kind of what that might look like.
I would
to
love
get some
that, even if we had
ideas.
a plan, in different phases, we would at least know what direction.
And at least a cost, we'd know more or less what it might
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
So, I guess to that end, maybe you could get with Kate and I don't know who else we want to have. Or I guess Brett's part of the facility stuff too, maybe get with him too. And you guys could start brainstorming on that. And then I would like to see the ideas before we take it to an architect and get too far down the road. I don't know if the rest of the commission feels like that.
Well,
Just
and
for some rough idea.
Yeah, we'd have to look at what the process is, because we could make a list of wants and ideas, but an architect also might be able to come in and make suggestions of what would be appropriate, what would be more
Exactly.
feasible, things that we might not even
So
think
maybe it's a
of.
combined thing.
Yeah.
Maybe,
But I
maybe you
think-
share your wants and thoughts with us, and then let's, and that could just be circulated via email. You don't have to come in and meet for that. And then let's work on getting an architect to look at it.
And I'm assuming
Figure out
the
what's-
priority would really be anything we could do over there to create space over here, right?
I think that's a
we're-
priority.
because
I
we're talking
think
about moving, getting rid of the
it-
auditorium
the
space. and using
auditorium
that, which
space, we
would-
want to continue to
Great.
have an auditorium space, because we feel like for community events and such, it's well utilized.
Mhm.
So I think that's a priority, but. Commissioners,
Because didn't you have an idea?
I did.
Yeah.
I got all kinds of
Sure,
ideas.
I got all kinds of, I have a whole folder.
I actually do, digital and
That
physical.
would help Star Wars summer program, and that would help with a lot of programs that you have all year round, or maybe even more of them.
Yeah.
Where you've got, your vision of what you want, and then you can go with, get the ideas out there, and I think we all have to be involved in the ideas.
Yeah, no, that's
I think in
excellent.
conjunction with it, we can make those improvements, some of those improvements that you wanted with the facility anyway,
Yeah,
Maybe
if
that's a good
something's
time to
over
do carpet and paint or whatever it needs to be
Yeah.
made. Because that's, I mentioned earlier, I think we've to some degree neglected this facility. That library's 30 years old now?
25, 26.
5 years. Leslie was working here when they built it.
She was.
Um,
She's been here 30 years.
Handbooks across.
make you feel old.
Everybody will
But
watch
my point is, I don't think we've ever replaced the carpet.
No. Yeah.
So if it's 25 years old, it's lasted us well, which is awesome. But maybe we got to consider
Yeah.
replacing flooring or something.
No, that's great. So what I'm hearing, and I love that, I'm all on board with that, is that Kate and I will work together, come up with some wants, some needs, be in conversation with you guys about that, and we'll decide at what point it would be appropriate to bring in an architect and move forward from there. Okay? That sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will get these changes made, updated. I'll send it out to you to look over. This will be on your agenda for the next meeting to approve the tentative budget.
For the
So,
29th.
Yeah, so let me know if you see anything that I've missed or messed up.
Thank you. This budget process has been, in my mind, a lot smoother than previous years. And it's much appreciated. So, Kimberly and Leslie, thank you both. Thank you for your efforts on this. A lot.
Thank you.
How's your blood pressure?
Well, it would be better if I wouldn't have messed these two phones up, but
Oh,
You're doing great.
you're fine. It doesn't help that you're getting all kinds of direction from us in 10 different directions.
And thank you for doing that so quickly, Casey.
Okay. 2-minute break, and then we'll jump into legislative discussion with Carrie. Carrie, do you want to come on up here?
Pick up too much.
Somebody kick me. Yes, sir.
I just left it on. What's that? Yeah, texting the boss. He is not feeling well, so he's listening in. He's online. I do not remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
These are like handout size, so they're small.
Okay. We'll let these old guys take their time sitting down. Oh, sorry.
You're gonna get up.
There's
before
not
the
a lot of
meeting's
people I
over.
get to call.
Oh yeah. Let's wait for HR to be here before you make those kind of comments.
Raz chaired a little bit.
I am older than you.
You are older than me. And wiser too, I might add. So.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Did you say? Okay, cool. All right, work session to discuss legislative priorities. Mr. Gibson. Carrie, welcome. Thanks for coming up. We've had some good successes, I think, with thanks to your efforts and a lot of help from the legislature. We've been successful securing funding for the environmental study for the Mountain Green Interchange and also securing the funding to purchase the state land at East Canyon. So appreciate the effort that's gone into that. Well, we've got a legislative session coming up are you counting down to days yet, or is it still weeks and months?
It's still months, but not by far.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that session. I think this will be the first legislative session, well, full session. I guess they've had some little interim things, but full session since the Olympic announcement. I don't know if that's going to be prime time to start asking for for interchange money or not, but hoping that's the case. And then I guess also maybe you can give us your thoughts on what you're hearing through the grapevine in terms of what the financial situation is looking like, because I know that always affects things too. So.
Well, I'll start with that then.
Okay.
By way of a brief overview, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chair.
That'd be great.
Thank you for the opportunity to visit with you today about the legislative session coming up and the work that we've been doing both during the session and during the interim. So from a budget perspective, we are all estimates that we're hearing so far as tax revenue are slightly positive. When I say slightly positive, that means to me that we're not necessarily in a completely negative cycle, but there is an awful lot of angst. I think there's concern about where interest rates are, where the economy is headed, where frankly the November election takes us and what kind of policy moves us forward. As you know, the state of Utah budgets very conservatively compared to other states. As a former legislator, I like that. I think that it puts us in a really good position to react quickly when a crisis arises. Although the state does take on debt, they're very careful to budget ongoing money separately than one-time money, and the state of Utah is continuously recognized as the best managed state in the nation because of the way that they do their budget process. They also have by constitution, we cannot spend more than we make. So I think it's fair to say that the legislature is cautiously optimistic for some positive growth in the economy and in tax revenue, but as time goes on, those revenues seem to be getting flatter, and those projections, I should say, seem to be getting flatter. The governor's budget will be announced the first week of December, but they're actually starting to formulate it in earnest now, and we're starting to get some ideas that the governor is going to budget fairly flat as well moving forward. So that tells me that the legislature and the governor's office are singing from the same sheet of music when it comes to possible projections for the future. I think the thing that has become the biggest concern over the last few years was is more of an imbalance than a lack of funding going into the state coffers. And the legislature's attempt to address that was in, sorry, I can't remember if it was referred to as proposition or amendment, Amendment A to the Constitution, not proposition. Amendment A would have allowed for an additional use of income tax funds from the state for other priorities. Of course, that was fought heavily by some, specifically the UEA and other education-minded folks, mainly because as of now, the state constitution allows only for income tax revenues to be used for education, public education, K through 12, higher education, and partially under certain circumstances for some health and human services issues. The legislature believes that as a whole, I think as a supermajority anyway, that allowing for some more flexibility within that income tax revenue would allow emergencies to be met across the board, not just in education, and especially over the last few years when education has received historic funding increases to the point that now we used to hear all the time that Utah was last in the nation, and we're solidly mid-pack based on the recent improvements, the recent increases in spending. That being said, Amendment A, just recently we found out was struck down by the Utah Supreme Court, just like Amendment D, which basically using the argument that it was not posted correctly by the legislative folks, as it was supposed to be posted in every rural, every newspaper, every major newspaper, but it was supposed to be put in newspapers. Now the legislature believed that they had met that requirement in the digital age with some digital posting requirements. Supreme Court disagreed. That's probably the biggest single issue that will affect budgeting this year. So when your ballot comes in the mail today, you will receive it. Proposition A will be on the ballot, but it won't be counted. And so, or be valid. I don't know if it'll be counted or not. So I don't know if we'll see, how that would have actually shaken out had it been valid, but it's not valid. So that's going to make a big difference towards the legislature in their budgeting process, because they're constrained now to other sources of revenue that go into the general fund and other funds, but they're not able to use the income tax fund for other issues. So that's kind of the prognosis. I think had we seen that amendment stay on the ballot and pass, it would have been a much different discussion as far as what kind of funding sources are available this year. That being said, I know that you, Mr. Chair, mentioned the interchange, and that of course is a major priority for us and for this county. And one of the positive things is that it has been a couple of years now since the state bonded for transportation projects. Last year, revenues were maybe even a little flatter than we expect this year, and there was real angst in the budgeting process as to whether or not there was going to be any money to go around. And because of that, and high interest rates and other issues, the legislature chose not to borrow money for transportation. A lot of transportation projects in the queue, unprecedented growth across the state, unprecedented building. Those transportation corridors are becoming more and more congested, and we are experiencing that certainly. but we also are experiencing probably less than some of our neighbors to the south. And so with that, there's been a tremendous amount of pressure on road projects in Salt Lake and Utah counties and points to the south. So I am guessing that the legislature is going to have a hard time pushing back a transportation bond in a year like this, because I feel like there's becoming an awful lot of bottled up anxiety over the transportation needs that we're facing. In addition to that, as you mentioned, Mr. Chair, the announcement of the Olympic Games for 2034 was made on July 24th. It was kind of decided a little bit before that, but that was the official announcement. And so there are a certain amount, I'd say almost a large amount of projects that are required to make that games happen, and it's not only venues, it's transportation and infrastructure in all different manners. And because of that, it's there's positive momentum for projects like the ones that we're concerned about, like the one particularly the interchange, but there's also additional competition because everybody sees this as an opportunity. Just an example of that. There's a push for that I was hearing about today in interim meetings, and a significant push from Salt Lake County and Salt Lake City to relocate the entire rail hub headquarters in Salt Lake City from the Union Station to the Rio Grande, and kind of realign that whole thing and bring the rail together out of the Rio Grande. The ask on that is somewhere between 6 and 8 billion with a B. And so that just tells you the kind
Well, our
of
little project is just pennies, Carrie. Remind them of that.
exactly.
We're
and
just asking for 80 million. That's nothing.
So I guess my point is that there is the appetite. It's a little bit like hungry hippos at times with that whole mentality. It's like they know that there's going to be people know that there's going to be a certain amount of resources kind of allocated for the Olympic experience, and they all want to be a part of that process. And so, and yet, most of the things that are being proposed are positive, but again, that $8 billion for that doesn't excite me like the projects we're working on. So those types of things
seem to have a real great nexus to the Olympics.
They're claiming it's because they want to bring in all the passenger rail, all the light rail, they want to make it like the transportation hub to split off to the Olympics. I know that Ogden has some ideas too with their Union Station and getting people up to the venues up here. They're talking a couple million, but not 8 billion, right? So it's a bunch of stories. But again, transportation and moving people through the Olympics. It's where I agree with you.
The facilities presently are there. They're just relocating. They want their own Grand Central Station.
They do. And the reality is, in addition to what they want, there's a tremendous amount of redesigning, I would say, of the entire skyline in Salt Lake City based upon the movements of the Ryan Smith's group that's brought in the Utah Hockey Club and a few other, and also Utah Jazz, and so there's a little bit of an insatiable appetite in Salt Lake County right now for redefining the entire skyline. say on the backs of government, but on certainly, they want government participation. That's a little bit challenging. So, that being said, I think when we talk specifically about the interchange project that you tasked us to work on, that we were able to deliver the planning money for 2 sessions ago, I feel as though we're well positioned. I mean, I continue to say, I gotta be careful here. There's going to be the Thursday after the election, so November 7th, both the House and the Senate caucus, which means that they get together, Democrats and Republicans, and elect their leadership. So that's intentionally held very close after the election, so that when January, the new year comes around and the new legislators are sworn in, that they are organized and ready to go to start moving their projects forward before the session. I don't expect major changes in the House leadership, very minor if any. That being said, I expect, we are hearing that there's movement in the Senate. The Senate, this is where I probably shouldn't speak too much in public, but I feel as though there will be a few changes, likely be a few changes in Senate leadership. With that, though, I think that most of the folks that are working closely with us are going to continue to be there in leadership. We have a tremendous opportunity, and I can't say this out loud. We have tremendous support from our Northern Utah legislators for the interchange project, including including the president and the speaker. I mean, they want to see this succeed. We positioned it well, and now it's just a matter of figuring out the process to make that happen. So I feel really good about where we are, where we're going. I wish that I could express a little bit more to you all and to the public, the level of grind that it takes throughout the year to continue to keep these issues in front of legislators. And basically, I can just tell you that wherever 4 or 5 or 2 or 3 legislators meet, I try to be there. Like it's that level of grind to try and make sure that if there's ever a conversation going on about these issues that we care about, that I could put a plug in for how important and how valuable they are to the county and the support that we have. And I want to tell you as well, thank you as a commission for being united on the priorities that you send me to work on, because there is nothing worse for me as your representative than to have a member of the body or someone that speaks for the body, for the commission, to contradict something that I've told the legislature with authority, feeling as though I had authority to do so. And that hasn't always been the case, right? And so thank you for getting together on these issues and working on them. And I think that if that continues to be the case, we've got a really, really good opportunity ahead of us with the interchange project. There are other issues that that I'm sure will be coming up, both policy and appropriations issues that we could talk about. When we made an original proposal to you all, we threw a few of those out as possibilities, but I'm certainly willing to take, to have that discussion and take other orders as we move forward, especially on policy issues. I think we need to be prepared all the time to watch, with land use and things like that. But I will say, budget-wise, we should prioritize very carefully because it's tough for me to go ask for $80 or $90 million if we are nickel and diming them with the smaller asks. So if we have other asks financially, we should be very, very conscientious and careful about what our priorities are. I think that's really kind of part of the strategy that we came up with last year, which was we felt like we had positioned the interchange in a good spot for this coming year, and so it was really nice to be able to kind of lay off of that ask for just a minute and focus on the $20 million ask up the hill, and I think that played a big role in us being able to get that funded. So if there's particular issues you'd like to talk about, I'm happy to do so, but our main focus, if as I'm still feeling and hearing from the commission, unless something's changed, we ought to double down on interchange and try to make that our priority for the year.
I would definitely agree that that's our number one ask and financial, I think, item. I think there's probably other items, policy-wise, that we would love to have some voice in. And I think that's, we can have some more discussion on that and maybe open that up. Commissioners, any other thoughts from a financial ask? Is there any other items that you are thinking about that are outside of the interchange?
I'll just say that I think this one would be the major one right now. If we hadn't done that, I think that we would be going. I mean, I don't want to ask for very much. Just let's do this one as a law. Let's just do that. I tried to not do it. I tried to go for the one up there, and then after that, I think we might go for this one. We did the year before with the IA, just like insane. I don't have any problems, unless you want to buy a ball down at Rainforest. Sorry.
One of the thoughts I had, and I know it is a big ask and it's a lot of work and for an interchange, so I know a lot of focus is on water also, with just the Great Salt Lake and different things with water happening. I think it was last commission meeting, we talked about the water up in Hardscrabble, so we have an area of maybe you could say a few hundred people where they're literally, some are literally trucking in water. So I guess I don't want to, it's hard because what we heard from a couple of the residents is we don't want to create a water system up here because then it's just going to attract more people to come and create development. But also they're struggling with water and maybe well rehabilitation, but maybe that's what I'm getting on, is if there's anything that in your talks and discussions, if there's anything about well rehabilitation. I think we have a few residents that would be very interested if there's any funding opportunities for rehabilitating wells.
That's a good, I like that.
And again, I agree with Commissioner Fackrell. Commissioner, I mean, we don't want to necessarily have you go off of the interchange. I mean, that is our main focus. That's just.
But that's the type of thing. Sorry, Commissioner, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But that's the type of thing that can coexist, right? I mean, as long as we're not asking for another $10 or $20 million project, that's what we're.
I think to that end, Carrie, to some degree, you can be our eyes and ears down there, and if there are opportunities that you feel like might be of interest to us, we'd love to hear about them. We may have already heard about them from other sources, but if you catch wind, hey, they're thinking about this policy, what do you think about it? Or maybe this could benefit or hurt the county. If you want to weigh in, we just love that communication. So,
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the ARPA funding has kind of run out. That's the type of thing that would fit really good into a project like that. And I don't think that that's I mean, even though ARPA's gone, I still think that it's a priority for the state. You know, as one of you mentioned, the Great Salt Lake was a huge focus over the last couple of years. I was actually relieved to hear the Speaker of the House come out yesterday, I think it was, and say, we're going to take a break on major policy change, water policy change for a while, and let some of this stuff kind of catch up to us. To me, that kind of brings the focus back a little bit to infrastructure. I mean, when the state starts talking about, I mean, obviously there's always a question as to whether or not a water project or a transportation project or any project has a state nexus, whether it's a local project or a state project. We've been successful in convincing the state that there's more, that a lot of these local projects do have regional and statewide impact, and I think that water is every bit as valuable in that case as a transportation project, right? It's something that a water system can benefit a lot of people, sometimes outside of the county, outside of county borders. And so, yeah, those are certainly, Mr. Chair, the types of things that we can look at. As far as policy is concerned, unless there's particular issues that you would like to see us driving forward.
Yeah. So I was gonna, I think all of us have a concern with this legislation that was passed last year almost unanimously, so I don't understand it, but that you can have a city created in a county with not a whole lot of strings attached, and we have no say over it. That's a little bit
Reincorporation.
incorporating into a city. And so when somebody has a large project, wants to do it, we have our concerns about it, and they can just go, okay, we'll just become our own city, then we'll do what we want. That becomes a problem because it affects our whole community with infrastructure and schools and all that good stuff. And so we have that going on in our county right now, and I'd like to understand it better. Did talk to Stuart for a minute about it, and he was going to look into it, but that's something that I would like to understand better and see if there's any recourse that we have to be able to slow projects down that'll triple the size of a community.
I think that's going to end up being discussed a lot more during this session than we realize. Grand County's got the same issue going on down there just outside of Moab. And I think we're going to see more and more requests for that very soon from developers across the state. So I think it's going to become a hot button issue very quickly, for sure.
This would be the year to do that. Anytime anytime, the worst issues to get involved in down there are incorporation issues. Like, people are intensely passionate about those on both sides. We saw a battle down there last year. Weaver, from Weaver County, opposing corporation, Weaver County and the Ogden Valley. It just blew up in everyone's face. There's a lot of that. But I think, just like anything else, Commissioner Wilson, sometimes the pendulum swings a little bit too far in one case, and it's got to swing back and correct itself. And I think I agree with you. That's where we've gone on this issue. We've gone too far with allowing cities to kind of create themselves without being financially feasible to do so, right? And so there's some real challenges there, and I'm happy to dig into that if you'd like and see where we're at on that issue. That's the type of thing that the legislature generally doesn't like to take up unless there's real pressure and real leadership involved. But I'm happy to go to the president and the speaker and talk to him about that issue.
I definitely think that there's a lot of pressure from the public, at least those who are aware that it exists. And I think there will be more as this plays out throughout the state. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes, I guess. But appreciate you keeping your ear down on that one too.
And then as I was saying, on other, policy issues, short of us driving something forward at this point, as you mentioned, we start to see legislation now popping up, quite a bit that's open to the public, and then about the week before the session, everything that everybody's been working on in a protected file starts to pop up, and it happens all throughout the session, and so we really don't know what's coming until 3 weeks into the session, when everything has to be, released to the public and made open. Sometimes the scariest part of the session is just the last 2 weeks when stuff has been bottled up and it comes up and it starts coming out fast. It's like fastballs coming from every direction. We watch those things, and that's when I can really use help as well. I mean, obviously we're there, but I appreciate your involvement in UAC and other organizations that track this stuff, and from all of your professional associations that you might be involved with, letting us know when these things are popping up, because there's literally 1,000 pieces of legislation. Most of them, over half of them, come up after the session starts, if not more. And so being able to just keep an eye on things. It's one thing to go kill something or push something forward, but that's only if we know about it and if we see it coming. And so that's where I can use some help from you all.
Commissioners, any other thoughts on priorities that you're aware of?
Not like any other funding priorities.
No, I would just back what Commissioner Wilson said and Chair Newton, that there's a lot of pushback. I haven't heard anybody really be for necessarily, except maybe those that are trying to incorporate, but there's just been a lot of pushback on that incorporation area, so we definitely need to make that known as best as we can.
Of course, there's the other one, the consumption tax, but we're gonna be working on that as UAC.
That's definitely an issue that we can get involved with and help push one direction or another, but that is truly an issue, that is not, it's not going to be successful being pushed forward by one county.
I agree.
Or
I
a
agree.
handful of counties. Like, that's almost 100% got to be a consensus.
Statewide.
By formula, that UAC has had a chance to truly vet that type of thing and make sure that that all the stakeholders are in play there, and then we can mobilize. But yeah, that's definitely. I haven't heard where UAC has gone on that issue.
It was just a discussion in UAC, or was it UAC? Anyway, it was one of our discussions just recently was on that food sales tax, making it fair to everybody, and not just to making it a full. If you go to McDonald's, you've got a sales tax there. That then comes back to us as a county, and that's a benefit for all rural counties in the state. That way, those that want to stay rural can stay rural with that kind of a system of the sales tax. We don't have to go out after more property tax by doing that. It's consumption tax. So anyway, that's in the works with the Restaurant Association and with the those that are working on that plan right now. So.
Commissioner, in that conversation with UAC, did they mention as though they were looking at a solution for this legislative session? Okay, that's good to know. I'll reach out to them, find out where they're at on that. My honest opinion is that it's close at this point for that to still be in the because that gets very complicated,
Yeah, it's very complicated.
And I think we're awful close to the session for them to be able to put something together that all the counties or
Yeah.
majority of the counties can agree on. But that doesn't.
Yeah, they were working on it last year, and then they dropped it, and then they says, let's try it again this year, but let's refine it. And let's get it more sensible. And so if that happens, it will be a boondoggle for our county. A real huge boondoggle for us, which will be good.
Okay, anything else for Carrie?
Just for your information, they announced last week that there is a commuter, let's see, air mobility commuter transport that they're asking for locations to potentially put that vertical stops. So anyway, we're supposed to be putting some of them in this year before the end of December.
World's changing, isn't it?
Will they get caught by chopsticks as they?
I don't know. I have no idea.
was pretty
All I know is it's
fascinating to watch
it's the
that
Jetson
SpaceX
age. Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of interesting how it works, but it's out there. They're expecting to have 10 locations before December that they've already been working on, and it will be an interesting thing if and when it happens. I know it's happening because my brother-in-law's working on it. One of them from a Brazilian company, so it is out there. Jetsons is here finally. Now they talk about how you're going to take care of air traffic. This will be a big one.
I mean, like drones in the sky right now, do they?
Nope. That's what it is.
Just think I'll stay on the ground.
Dude.
Buy a robot from Elon Musk and just have it do my stuff for me.
I prefer that too,
Okay, well, thank you, Carrie. Appreciate you coming in and visiting with us, and good luck with the session. I know it seems like it's a ways away, but time will fly, won't it? Okay. Cool.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, commissioners. We got about 10 minutes here before our regularly scheduled meeting, so if you need to take a break. We're going to start in 1 minute here, so I'll give you a chance to finish up your conversations. Okay, welcome to the Morgan County Commission meeting. Today is October 15th, 2024. We just completed a budget work session beginning at 3 o'clock and a work session discussing legislative priorities at 4. We're now beginning our regularly scheduled meeting. We'll begin with an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, and I've asked Commissioner Anderson to take care of that.
Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this day, grateful for the opportunity, ability we have to be here and meet as commission, meet as residents, to discuss county items. We ask thee that as we go talk and discuss these items and we make as best decisions that we can. We're also grateful for the election process at this time of year, and grateful for those forefathers who set up a process that allows us to be able to go through an election process like we have. Grateful for those who serve and continue to serve. Grateful for those who are currently serving in active war zones. I'm grateful for them and their service and giving up their lives to protect our freedoms. We're grateful for the weather that we have, grateful for the weather that's coming. Moisture is always a welcome sight for the county. Ask thee that we continue to be cognizant of everything that we're blessed with from thee. We're grateful for living in such a beautiful county, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Appreciate that. We will move to our consent agenda items. I believe there was one item, Commissioner Fackrell, that you had suggested be moved to the action items. That was item number 2, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So we will move item number 2 to the action items. That being said, are there any other items that commissioners would like to move to action items within the consent agenda?
Can we do number 3 also? I just would like to discuss that a little bit more.
Sure. Okay, so items 2 and 3 will move to action items. So items 1 and 4 remain on the consent agenda. Are there any questions on those items or any comments? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson,
I'll second it.
and seconded by Commissioner Fackrell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. All right, declarations of conflict of interest. Any commissioners for any of tonight's agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move to our public comment period. This will be an opportunity for the public to address the commission. We do have one. Josh, this one says public comment, but I'm assuming it means public hearing. Item number 8. Okay. So we do have one public hearing this evening. That's item number 8. All other items will not have a separate public hearing. So if you're here to address us regarding item number 8, you can do that at that point. Otherwise, you can address the commission on any other items at this point.
I want to ask for clarification. So in the agenda itself, it doesn't call it out as a public hearing, but in the item packet portion, it did list it as a public hearing. Is that enough of a discrepancy that we should continue it to the next meeting and advertise it as a public hearing on the agenda itself?
Normally, I would look at our attorney on that. Let's confirm on that.
Okay.
I would guess that we probably should renotice it, just to be safe.
That's what I would recommend for the sake of.
I would recommend that if you can hear me.
We can hear you. Thanks, Garrett. That's what we were looking for, so.
Thank you.
So that being said, we are going to postpone item number 8 till our next meeting pending an updated notice. Okay. Sorry, I said item F8, I should clarify. I guess that's the only item 8 on the agenda. We do. Yeah, and the reason that we'll have 3 this month and have it on October 29th is because the first Tuesday in November is Election Day, so we decided to move our meeting so that it would not fall on the election day. Okay, perfect, thank you. All right, presentations, we have none this evening, so we'll move to action items. We'll start with our new action item B2, which will be the acknowledgement of the Morgan City and County Capital Improvement COG list.
Did you open for public?
I'm sorry, I did not. I skipped over that because I was talking about the public hearing. We'll go back to item D, which is our public comment period. So if you'd like to address the commission regarding any items, please feel free to do so now.
That's why you didn't.
Okay, seeing none, we will move forward again to action item. We're going to call it B2 because it's coming from our consent agenda, and that is the Morgan City and Morgan County Capital Improvement List.
Okay, the list that was sent out for the capital improvements, as I stated in my email to you guys, it basically, that list has not been approved by COG yet, and the RPO, according to what Ty Bailey told me today, is that that list, they're just barely starting to get they're getting the recommendations, and they need to discuss them in the RPO and the COG in the RPO and then approved by the COG before it comes to us. So acknowledging it, yes, we can acknowledge it, but it needs to have, we're just acknowledging it is all we're doing, but there might be other things on that list that is not on that list at this current time. Plus the way that they declare those items from the RPO, they have to go through a certain process and put values to each one of those, so that way it can become either a high priority, moderate priority, or low priority, and not just based upon what both the city and the county public works people have sent to us.
So in that as an action item, is there something that needs to be added? I guess I'm not understanding. It's already been prioritized and there already is estimated cost?
Okay, and those are not done yet from the RPO meeting.
Okay.
And in the last COG meeting that I was in, it was not approved at that time. It was just received at that time, this list between the two. And so those need to be, first, they need to be reviewed by the COG process, which is which has to be done by the RPO for transportation projects, and those have to be put a value on each item.
Can I add, Commissioner Fackrell? My understanding, and let me know if you understand a little bit differently, but the city, if we had multiple cities, it'd be different too, but we just have one city, one county. So they submit their lists of their priorities to COG. COG goes through their process of evaluating them and then says, yes, we agree that here's the evaluation and here's what comes first on the list. And they also look at the amount available in the fund, and then they give a recommendation to commission.
That is
So
correct.
I don't think I don't know if we need to have any kind of acknowledgement of the list. I don't know. My guess is from a county perspective, I think it'd be good for Brett to come up and say, hey, here's the list, and do you guys agree with the order and the priority? And we could say yes, and then he would take it to COG. They would look at it and say, oh, here's what we're planning on doing.
That's correct.
I think because we didn't have that first step of Brett coming, and I didn't know the best way to put this forward so that everyone was noticed that this is the tentative. So how would you like me to address that in future, just so everyone's informed? Just a bulk email?
Yeah, and I think it does need to come from Brett, and it's just the county items. Like I don't think we would approve Morgan City's list as a commission, because they're going to say, here's our list of priorities. They're going to get it through their city and city council, and then when it comes to COG, we'll look at it, look at the costs, come to commission and say, here's the maybe one county, one city project. I don't know, but
Yeah.
that'll then come to commission for approval of what the COG's going to be.
And so within that, there's a process within the RPO that they're supposed to be working on with each transportation item. And there are some items up on that list that are not transportation items. And so the RPO has to determine those transportation items based upon regional significance, city, county significance. There's a lot of different aspects that go into it. And the RPO has that list and that evaluation sheet. And that's what Ty was telling me, that it had not been done yet, and it will be in one of your next RPO meetings, where you will be going through and prioritizing that according to the values set forth by the state, and how we as a RPO decided to make that process work to where it was fair for everybody. So it has not been done yet.
Okay. I guess there's really no action to take on this one. We can
That's correct.
move on to the next one. All right, let's move to action item B3, which was the fairground service projects for fiscal year 2025 for some organizations in lieu of rental fees.
And that one, I also, as far as the different list of the projects, are there more things than just that, or is this just a beginning stage of that project list?
This is what we budgeted for in 2025.
So we budgeted materials for these projects.
Okay.
Yes, there's more, absolutely. I think the intent was to hit those items that we felt like would be most impactful first.
Okay.
And then there'll be more to add to this for future years, but this would be just the list for this year.
Okay. All right.
Anything else on that?
Did
I
we
guess-
determine who is exempt from having to do those, or are we gonna make it everybody?
We already have that list. It's already on our,
No, I meant, yeah, you got the list, but who of the different entities are gonna be exempt from
from
not
doing it.
performing those
Gotcha.
Doing
in
a
lieu of the
survey?
fees?
I think every group will be required to do some type of a project if they're going to be exempt.
I'm fine with
I
it.
would take number one personally.
There's a few of them there. I'd do them all.
Yeah, we need to update that, and building is misspelled, so is concession.
Didn't write it.
Anyway, we can
Take our
update
shots when
those.
we can.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the fairground service projects for fiscal year 2025.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the fairground service projects for fiscal year 2025. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll now move to item F1. This is discussion decision on a request to award a service agreement for the repair of Morgan County Fairground bleachers. Brett is not with us, so Joel is here to represent. We wish Brett a speedy recovery.
He's home on the couch.
Good.
He's more pain than he thought he would be. We're all in more pain. We're not as tough as we think we are when with a knife.
Okay, so Joel, maybe we can give kind of a high-level overview of this. So Commissioners, you probably remember, it's been over a year ago during the fair, I called some of you over there, we went and looked at the bleachers and saw that you could easily fall off of some of those bleachers. Both the footboards and the seats are too narrow for the space and need to be upgraded to a point that they're safer for folks, particularly for children. So Brett had been working on some bids for that. There's really two sets of bleachers. Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, one on the east and one on the west, essentially.
The two end units closest to the exhibit building and the whole section next to the chutes.
Yep, perfect. So there's repairs and replacements that need to be done on those. We've got wood boards on one section that need to be replaced as well, so that's part of
Everything
this.
would be upgraded to aluminum seats. No more nails.
No more slivers?
No more slivers, no more nails,
Be nice.
we hope.
I know one of the concerns, Joel, is the fact that we only have one bid here. Can you maybe speak to that?
So Brett's been trying to accomplish this for over 2 years, and we have not yet in 2 years found anyone else willing to do repairs. They'll put new ones in for $300,000, but nobody but this guy does this particular action. So we have not been able to get any more bids than this current bid. No one wants to do that job. They want to sell you a new set for a ton of money, but nobody wants to repair the old ones. He's the only one willing to do it.
My thought is, I think when we've ran into items like this, there's a sole source form. And so let's just make sure with Garrett, our attorney, that it's okay to sole source and the reasonings behind it. And I think we should be good if we've shown that we made an effort, so.
Yep.
Did we talk about the funding source for this previously? Did Brett mention that?
So he's got the money in fairgrounds capital improvements set aside for it. I think there's $70,000 or $80,000 in there to pay for this.
Can that be used on capital, or not capital, but the, impact fees?
I
this
doubt
is
it, because
just repairing and
this is
interest
repairing, it's not expanding the facility, so.
If we were to purchase one, would it be?
I hate to spend this much out of fairgrounds capital improvement, but we also, it's something that's gotta be done.
Section.
So I don't know what else we do here, really, but I think it is a priority, so.
So we've got another option, we just want it done.
Yeah, and I don't know that, I mean, we could do from fund balance, but I think we're better off just doing from fairgrounds capital improvement, and the electrical improvements we've talked about, we can do from fund balance if we need some extra funding to make that happen. So,
So this item's listed as award a service agreement, but we've only got the estimate. So is the service agreement something that's going to be generated, approved by the county attorney, and then brought back, or are we just trying to move forward from here?
No, I agree with you, Commissioner McConnell. We need to have a contract just to make sure we're
Need to go and
covered.
see.
Well, I like that this was brought forward and we can agree on this amount. And once the attorney agrees on the sole source, then we'll just need a contract through Jack's Welding and Fabrication instead of just an estimate. Yeah. But I think we can move
Dollar
forward,
amounts.
right?
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm
think
agreeing with you.
we could make a motion to approve
the expense.
a service agreement approved by the county attorney for the repair of the Morgan County Fair bleachers with Jack's Welding, based upon the estimate presented, the amount of $68,000 to be funded from the Fair Capital Improvement Fund.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and thank
Thanks.
you for your.
I will require a budget adjustment FYI.
Yes, it will. We'll have to do yeah. It'll probably end up coming out in 2025 anyway, which is fine, but
2025.
we'll do the budget adjustment when it happens.
So he doesn't have it in his budget.
Well, the money's there, but it's not been budgeted to do this. The funds are just in a capital improvement fund, so yes, let's. Okay, moving to action item F2. Penny. This is resolution CR 24-81 approving a property tax hardship application.
So we're just here tonight to ask for your approval on the hardship abatement for this individual. They have asked for this in the past and just wondering if they can continue on in the future.
Penny, I assume we have to approve this every year, right? It's
That's
not
correct.
And it qualifies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely qualifies.
Yes, they meet all the requirements.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate the work that's gone into putting that information together. Are there any questions for Penny before we look for a motion on this item?
So is this just part of the scanning, because request is missing the Q and taxes is missing the...
On the resolution,
Yeah.
that's called Kate Can't Spell. Let me pull it up.
It's odd spacing. It's almost
Just
like it's
spaced.
been
Oh.
blanked out. But anyway,
We can fix the
It's code.
typing on the resolution there.
Yeah, that's what I wondered.
I'll make a motion that we approve CR 24-81.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve CR 24-81. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for all your work on the update.
Okay, item F3, BOE, Board of Equalization. Now, I believe we need to adjourn our public meeting and convene as a Board of Equalization.
That is correct.
And then we'll adjourn the BOE and convene as a commission again. So I'll look for a motion to adjourn our public meeting and convene a meeting of the Morgan County Board of Equalization.
So moved.
second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We are now convened as the Morgan County Board of Equalization.
All right. Janelle Walker, Morgan County Assessor. Thank you, Commissioners, for coming together, and we will talk about the Board of Equalization. As this is going, it kind of goes as time goes through. So the first part of this is just assessor adjustments that were made after disclosures were mailed. So we made some adjustments there. And then as you keep going, the pink is assessor adjustments after the disclosures were printed. That needed to have new disclosures printed after the adjustments were made. And then all of the green part is when someone appeals to the Board of Equalization, we make stipulations within the county to try to make, whether they're clerical errors or whether they go to primary, whether they maybe need an adjustment on their values, that's all done there. And then the last part where the gray part is when we had hearing officer come in and basically let the appellant come in as well, so they are able to, they're able to come in, and then we have a hearing officer basically be the non-biased area, and he goes through and says, I go for this value, or I think maybe adjustments need to be made here. Sometimes there isn't adjustments made. And after the hearing, then the taxpayer has the right to either be approved and stipulate to the county, or then they have the choice to be able to go to the Utah State Tax Commission. And we do have 2 of those going forward to the State Tax Commission for various reasons. So do you have any questions on any of these?
Yeah, I have one question.
Sure.
Janelle. I guess the only concern that I have is why we're off on our. It just doesn't look good to me to have them all off in favor of the county instead of having some higher, some lower, and things like that. It just feels like if everybody in our county was to have come before it, what would we have come out?
They're not in favor of the county.
No, they're in favor of the person, is what I'm saying.
In favor of the person.
Correct.
So a lot of them, some of them are just going to primary residence. So let's say that they were a secondary resident, which that's one thing I did change in a lot of the new builds. So they have to prove that they're primary. So that would be the adjustment. So if you see the taxable value, there is a change there. There is some that we do stipulate, that are denied or that they say, no, we're not going to change anything. And then that's when they have the right to either not use the information and not go to the state. But for the most part, I think, we did have probably the most that we've had so far in some of the ones in the hearing officers, and have them. There was adjustments made. Some of them wasn't, that they stayed the same, or that there really wasn't an adjustment made on a few of them. Or there was, I know we have one of them that was a small clerical error, which was they decided they told us that we had the wrong basement finish, so we did adjust that. But I don't think that all of them were just adjusted just for the person that, if they were asking. We don't have a lot of Board of Equalization in this county that they use. Very many appellants that really come through and question that. A lot of them I was able to discuss too if they had questions, and maybe it was an assessor adjustment that maybe they didn't get it because I explained why they're not going to go anywhere with it. Maybe they were past the time for primary or whatever it was. So there was a lot of discussions that were maybe not on this page that decided not to appeal because of the circumstances that they didn't qualify, or that they didn't that we weren't going to adjust the values.
I just know how things travel around in small communities.
I agree.
So when people start talking and saying, yeah, I went in and I got this much taken off, it seems like it grows and grows and grows. And that's my concern, is that we're getting the values correct.
Yes.
Or close to it.
And a lot of with the hearing officer, he very much focuses on the taxable value as well as like what the market value is. We're really focused on the market value. So some of them might just be a minor adjustment. The one thing that I think the biggest thing that I've come from this Board of Equalization is it's very important to ask questions. And so I have had some social media thoughts that have gone out, and they're like, well, the county's not going to do anything about that, and that is very untrue. Most of the time we're going to try and make sure that things are right, because that's what we want, is that we want it to be right. And a lot of those people, maybe they didn't call me, and that would have been nice to be able to discuss so that we're on the same page.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts, questions?
How many total properties do you assess?
That I assess? So a single family residence, we have about 4,500. We have about almost 12,000 parcels that we're working with right now. So
14
it's
of
a
them
few.
went to the hearing officer.
So we really do try to do
Well,
our due diligence.
I think that's a little bit, to go to the hearing officer, I've done it before.
Yeah.
You have to have a way to prove it, and
Right.
it's expensive to prove it. And so a lot of people are discouraged by going to the hearing officer because they don't have the things and don't want to spend the extra money, and they just look at it and go, well, I guess I'll pay it in taxes versus pay it to an assessor, or I mean to an appraiser. So, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, I kind of think.
It is, but is it every 3 years that you are supposed to do the actual evaluation of the property?
We do, we evaluate them every year, but it's every 5 years that we do a detailed review.
Yeah, so, I
And
mean,
that-
part of it's just an estimate that you do kind of on a general basis.
Yeah,
That's
it goes with all of the sales that are in the previous year. So all of the sales that are in the previous year, we use them as neighborhoods and areas, and then we use that sales ratio. We have a lot of data that comes with that, but we basically get to a factor amount of what maybe an area needs to go up or down in value for the market value to sustain the market value.
And I think that's a general misconception in all counties, working in BOE and other counties, is they don't understand that we don't appraise your individual house. It's mass appraisal. There's no way that the
So
office
you
can
have
appraise.
outliers.
Yeah. Absolutely, which is the purpose
There's a process
BOE.
of
Yeah.
looking at it and coming.
And
to
that's the whole
conclusion.
point of the due process. Is
Yeah.
it's a wonderful tool that we have to be able to clean up some of that stuff. And the one thing that is with the Board of Equalization, I know that's one thing that Commissioner Wilson, that you were talking about. When you do appeal, the burden of proof is placed on the taxpayer. So it is, but they don't have to have an appraisal. They don't have to have, if they have the knowledge, or if they have information of saying, okay, our lien date is as of January 1st, and they have good information, then we're gonna accept a lot of that information. We don't just be like, you didn't use an appraiser, so you're out of the ballpark.
But Zillow is not an appraiser.
And Zillow is not an appraiser, so.
However, when my taxes doubled on my bowling alley, in 1 year, they increased it double, which was significant, from 400 to 800,000. And that's when I did it, and I had other things that showed income or whatever it was that they wanted, and it basically just got, I got a whole $80 off of that, which, it's hard to run a business here in Morgan as it is. So it makes it difficult when it's
And I
like
agree,
that.
because the commercial is also different than residential as well. So yes, there is a little bit of difference between commercial and residential, but the normal taxpayer of residential homes, they are more than welcome to get as much information, and we definitely look through everything.
Okay, that's good to know.
So we welcome it. That's the whole thing. A lot of people say, well, they're not even going to listen to me, but then those lovely people don't call me. So how do I help them?
No, Janelle, I'm going to make I guess, comment just towards the general public about what your office does. I hear comments all the time from people saying, well, if the assessor didn't keep raising the value of my home. And I think it should be clear that the assessor is not responsible for the value of your home increasing. It's your neighbor who sold their home for $1 million. That's why the value of your home is increasing, because they're looking at actual sales of actual real estate in the county, in your neighborhood, and those sales continue to rise, and that's why your home value is continuing to rise. It's not because Janelle just thinks that property should be worth more. There's a method to it, and I think if you were listening the last few minutes, you probably got a little starry-eyed trying to figure out what she was talking about, and all these calculations that are done. There's a lot of detail, I think, that goes into this. So
There is a lot of detail, and there's also a lot of restrictions that we have with that, especially even just valuing a property. We have to stay within those restrictions to the state. So that's where we're getting that market value.
I agree with Commissioner Wilson. It's important to try to be as accurate as possible. It's certainly important to listen to people who have concerns and be reasonable in the evaluation of the evidence that they present. But, I think you did a great job.
Well, thank you. So I guess that's the thing, is going to the Board of Equalization is just asking for approval for the adjustments that have been presented to you.
okay, any further questions on the adjustments?
Nope.
Okay, that being said, we'll look for a motion to approve the 2024 BOE adjustments.
I'll make a motion that we approve County Resolution 24-02-BOE and approve the adjustments recommended by the Board of Equalization.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now do we have to-
Now look for a motion to adjourn the Board of Equalization and reconvene our county commission meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second by Commissioner McConnell, because I heard him first, to adjourn and reconvene. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
I said aye.
Okay, perfect. Motion passes. We're now back in our public commission meeting, and we are moving on to item F4, which is a discussion with the Morgan County Conservation District. Catherine James, Jason Morgan, Maggie Matthews, Aaron Edgar, regarding the Utah Noxious Weed Act. Jason?
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, before
Yes.
we begin, can I make sure that Janelle sticks around for this part?
Jason?
Aaron was supposed to be our main presenter, and he had a family emergency and is not going to make it. So we scheduled that part of it.
I don't
Couldn't
think
go
we-
until just now when he didn't show up.
I don't think we needed a presentation so much as what your ask was, which is what I was talking to Kathy about.
Well, to put the weed board together, I don't know if you guys did Kathy, or did you guys get the different ordinances from the other counties? I kind of looked them over.
We did, yep.
Maggie looked at them. I mean, that to me, something like that, to where you have the weed board can have a little force or power.
Authority?
I don't know what you'd call it.
Authority?
Authority to be able to do something. I mean, if there's so many steps, and that's what Aaron was going to talk about in the Noxious Weed Act, is the steps in order to take action on somebody's ground that has a noxious weed. You can't just jump in and do it. I mean, it starts clear in the spring. You have to post the noxious weeds, and there's quite a step to go through it. And that to me is where we need to move forward. Is to get an active weed board put together again. We talked last time I was here. The weed board's supposed to be appointed every 4 years, and I'm pretty sure it's beyond that. I'm pretty sure we need to appoint a new weed board. You guys need to appoint a new weed board. That's kind of where we need to begin. I think.
Do we know what we currently have in our code in terms of weed board? There's nothing in there currently. Okay. So I guess the next step then is we need to get an ordinance written and put in place.
We had
And I
some-
appreciate
I
those
looked at
sample ordinances. I think those are really helpful. We could probably
Yes.
glean from that and put together something.
I was just trying to follow the correct process where you have to task staff to write the ordinance. I believe that would also have to go through planning, yes? Okay.
See, I don't think it's land use, is it?
Yeah, it's public.
Which is unusual. I think in 5.5 years of doing this, this is maybe one of 2 or 3 ordinances that we've had come through that hasn't been land use, so it's interesting.
No.
So I guess that being said, who on staff would be typically doing that? Is that you and maybe county attorney help?
Yep.
What we did is 4 years ago, almost 3.5 years ago, we actually put together a weed board.
Is that how long it's been?
It's been about that long. I was just looking to try to see if I can find it, and without going through each one of them, I'm not going to find it right away.
It is
But
not
we
by
did put together a board, and it was under Brett.
Okay, it's just not by ordinance.
No, it was not by ordinance, so
Okay.
we need to do that process. I'm just saying we did have a board.
You're right.
Yeah,
Whether or
did
not
have
we,
a board.
whether or not we did anything with that board is another story.
And usually, the way I understand it, most counties, it falls under the county road department, the head of that kind of heads it up. But we've done it several times, but the people keep moving in the county, so,
Sounds like we need to get the ordinance put in place and then push to make sure we have active participation. So, and I think having an ordinance that better describes the roles and responsibilities would probably help with that a lot.
Right.
So,
I mean, when I first got on the conservation district was kind of considered the weed board, but we're not really the weed board. We're to help, or assist. And one of the board members was on the weed board, or part of the weed board. But, so that's where, we're trying to get an active weed board put together.
When's your next conservation district meeting?
We meet the second Wednesday of every month.
So tomorrow?
We're not meeting this week because it'll be in
November? Okay. Do you want that, I was gonna go to their meeting and draft it with them, but would you prefer that I draft it and we do it by email to get it on there sooner? I know we only have one commission meeting in November.
think that's fine. I mean,
Meeting
was
with
gonna
them or
say-
by email?
Going through those, I like.
I don't wanna
both.
put this off, but weeds aren't gonna grow between the end of November
You haven't
and
seen my backyard.
February, so. So.
This is good though.
This is a good
talking
time of year
about
to
it
get this
this
put in
year
place.
Because
Yeah.
normally, you know, we wait till spring and then
Right.
it's like all the weeds are coming and it's too
Agreed.
late to get all this done. So,
So-
if we need to even come meet
No,
with
I'd
you
gladly
or-
be at your meeting. It's just our next meeting's in 2 weeks here, because we only have one November meeting,
Right.
and then the one November meeting. So if you meet
But
the
maybe you could get a
second-
draft by the second meeting, or the
The
only
November
in
meeting?
November.
So
Third
November meeting, 6/13. So that would actually be perfect, because then the commission meeting is on the 19th, so if you meet on the 13th of November, that gives me plenty of time to agenda that. Does that work?
So for,
I type just as fast on the 13th as I do on the 6th.
13th, because we got our state conventions on the 6th.
You
so
bet.
We're gonna be in St.
okay.
Louis. So,
And honestly, we appreciate all that our conservation district does, and I thank you to Kathy to stay on top of me
well,
on
and
that
she
one.
forgot she had a meeting. She was gonna be here and then Aaron didn't
That's
show
how
up,
life
so-
works.
So,
So if you
sorry.
just loop me in on an invite to that and time and place, that would be awesome. But I'm putting it in my calendar right now.
Okay.
May I bring up this question, and that's why I wanted Janelle to stick around. And that is having to do with like the railroad. How do you impose a fine on them as big as they are, or actually a fine, and then put it onto their assessment, their tax assessment, and then potentially have them pay it, because then it goes to the centrally assessed down in Salt Lake
For
City and
For not taking care of noxious
for not
weeds?
taking care of the weeds.
So, not to pull a Jared and say in Weber County, but in Cache County, we actually have an interlocal with the railroad, and we spray their weeds for them and then charge them for our weed in time, our spray in time. So maybe that might be something we can look, and I'm assuming that's Norfolk Southern.
Yeah, because I noticed in the one from Rich County, it said that they
Rich
would
is-
put it onto the taxes, and if they didn't pay it. And so, and then if they didn't do that, then it becomes a misdemeanor in the Cache County one, and so what we need to do is just make sure that we've got some teeth in it if that happens, or just work with the railroad and see what we can do.
Okay, I might just
And the highway
start that
department.
conversation now anyway. Because if we need to increase our chemical budget, if we're gonna get an interlocal, I'd like to do that before.
Because
The
our
first-
major, in the weeds, where we brought this up earlier this year was with Dyer's Wood. And our biggest problem is some teeth to try to get rid of Dyer's Wood.
Years ago, we had somebody come from the railroad to one of our meetings. We invited, and he was over all through Morgan County and stuff, and he was more than willing, or the railroad was more than willing to pay the county to take care of the weeds. We came to the county council. They didn't want the liability. That was where it ended.
Or-
So.
We're spraying them already, so if that's not
The-
something you guys want me to,
This has been years ago. But one thing about it is, putting the county people on the railroad right away, a lot of it's not, you can't spray it. It's gonna be handled, But now with drones that are spraying, it's a whole different story, You could hire a private contractor to spray it. And the railroad, from what I understand, the railroad will pay. They just don't want to do it. So, and the railroad, this guy was from up in the Evanston area, and he said that the weed board in that area was pretty well funded, or the whole weed department was funded by the stuff that they did for the railroad. So that is a huge resource, I think, is to two things: to control the weeds, plus it's an income to help fund a full-time employee for weeds. I say full-time, but we had it once before, somebody that sprayed weeds through the summer, and then they plowed snow in the winter, so it's a full-time guy, but that's his full-time job is weeds.
And I know Cash doesn't have as much rail as we do, because it mainly cuts into Box Elder, but it was almost $300,000. So, it's worth a
I mean,
conversation.
Yeah, let's have
railroad's
the
just a big
conversation.
thing, but you've got,
But it's a good point, Commissioner Fackrell, that we're missing that as a big offender.
well, that's the huge thing,
Yeah.
because that moves it through the whole county, so. But the railroad, but then you look at other private businesses that, you know, that maybe they have a weed problem, but they would rather just pay the county to come do it, you know. If we ever got it started, I think it would fund itself. It's just a matter of getting it up and going.
I still like keeping the kids involved.
Well, the bag of woad thing, I think we'll keep doing that forever, and that's the conservation district. That's something we've done and we'll keep doing. Like I say, the kids in Morgan County, they know Dyer's Road.
Because didn't we increase that amount in the budget for
We
next
did.
year?
Yeah.
So, thanks
Last
for
year
putting
was
that.
huge. I hope it keeps growing. And we'll keep doing that. It's
we
more of
we
an
hope the program keeps growing, not the Dyer's vote,
Yeah.
right?
it's an educational thing more than anything. I mean, you're not. It's got to help. But I'm pretty sure at this point we're not going to control it. You know, by just ways.
Awesome.
Okay, well, let's, I think as an action item, we can officially direct staff to work to develop a noxious weed ordinance and a weed board ordinance.
So two separate or one? I think we
Well,
have to
I think-
announce the noxious weeds annually, don't we?
Yeah, that's
And then
in
you
the
said
spring.
board members every 4?
Yeah, I mean, let's work on the board and then we can figure out how we need to handle the, I guess, the noxious weed part of it.
And as far as the board, I don't know if you put something out there. I mean, there's probably people out there that would love, you know, and help do this. I mean, last time we kind of put some names together, and we have a few people that we could put together, but probably need to announce it somehow.
Yeah,
So-
we'll have to post it like we do other openings, but yeah, we'll get into those weeds later and figure out the details. No pun intended.
Pun and dad jokes.
Okay, and we'll put you in the loop for the
Thank
next
you.
meeting, so.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, do we need to do an action item here, a vote on that? To
Vote on
direct
the
staff, or
ordinance.
are we comfortable with where
I've
we're
got
at?
my marching orders.
Okay. All right, you got your marching orders. Let's move on to action item F5. This is a discussion regarding the Mountain Green Cemetery. Vicky.
So Vicky, I threw some stuff together. Okay.
I apologize. We're just volunteers that do this.
Nope, love it.
And
That's how our
so
county runs.
Trying to, thank you, first of all, for letting us be here tonight, take some of your time. I'm Vicki Benson, and this is Sandy Johansson. And we are on the cemetery board at the Mountain Green Cemetery. And our purpose here tonight is mostly to share information with you. So if you'll humor me for a minute, I just wanted to give you a little spiel about the cemetery's history. So the Mountain Green Cemetery, that's located at 5055 West Old Highway Road in Mountain Green, was originally laid out in 1860. It was located within the boundaries of land owned by David Bowman Company, who sold 0.54 of an acre to the settlement of Mount Green. As near as can be determined, the first burial took place in that same year of 1860. So in 1997, the current Morgan North Stake President Robert Hall, who's actually here tonight, he was instrumental, and he began the development process of enlarging and beautifying the Mountain Green Cemetery. It was just dirt and sagebrush at the time, so this was 1987. And they enlarged it from the 0.5 of an acre to about 2 acres, which is approximately 293 feet by 288 feet, and had about 1,700 plots involved. So this property with expansion was exchanged, was done through property that was exchanged and donated by Kent Smith, Dale Smith, and Robert Hall of the community. As the Mountain Green community has grown and expanded, our private, small-owned cemetery has continued to serve the residents of Mountain Green. However, in August of this year, 2024, the cemetery completely depleted all available property and plots. So as of September 1st, 2024, the Mount Green Cemetery is no longer a burial resource for the community of Mount Green and Woodland. There is no possibility at this time of enlarging the cemetery because it is bordered on all sides by privately owned land. So we just wanted you to be aware that this part of the county no longer has any resource for burials. As long as well as all these other, oh, sorry. So, one more.
So that's just the map of that.
Oh, is that an apple? Yes. Okay, perfect. So, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cemeteries that I could kind of pretty much verify in the county. And of those 12, the only one that I could actually verify the information of that they had actual plots that would not require you to be a resident of their membership was the Peterson Cemetery, and they only have 30 remaining plots. Now, South Morgan Cemetery and North Morgan Cemetery does still have plots, but I do not know the exact numbers of those. The others, Colville, Richville, Milton, Croydon, Peterson, Mount Green, Round Valley, these are all private cemeteries that only allow residents, and plots are very, very scarce. So we just wanted you as a county council to be aware of the need of the county for this resource, especially with all of the development agreements and such that are being proposed to you for the future. We'd like to kind of hope that you would take into consideration this need, and as you consider these development agreements, we don't know what the solution is. We just wanted to bring our information to you today so we can maybe start to work on what you might feel would be a solution. But there are different options, of course, that would work for different communities, and we have to just decide what would work for our county as far as that need. So do you want to say anything,
Well,
Sandy?
and like Vicki said, we're concerned citizens. We set aside areas for schools, for parks, for a skate park, for a bike park, but we don't have anything as far as a plan that we know of to help with cemeteries. And it'll be a huge need. It is a huge need. Like she said, we're completely sold out. And we've been able to run it, volunteer. We have had help from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for about the past 3-4 years, maybe a little bit longer than that, but very minimal, and the rest it's done by volunteers. My proposal is to set aside, to set aside some property and then either ask the citizens of the county if they'd be willing to do a line item tax for a cemetery or for several cemeteries, whatever that need will be. But I mean, ask the citizens and see what they want to do. And I don't know what the plan is or what the procedure is to do that, but we'd be willing to help also with that. But I think you would find that there would be many people, just like Morgan County's known for its volunteers and people that want to be involved in the community, that you'd find the same thing there with other cemeteries.
So, Commission, if I can walk you through the data that I pulled just so that it makes sense. So this is all off the state website that lists out all cemeteries in the state, and then the map of that as well. To give you the Reader's Digest version, the green ones are active. This is Morgan County specific. I've got the Morgan County parameters in here. The red one is inactive, and the ones in black are abandoned. We don't have any private family cemeteries in the county that are registered at this time. It's not a private family. It's not a private family, sorry, I misspoke. So, I've pulled this map, obviously another reason why we're doing our GIS overlay, since our property lines do not align. As they were stating, was the original property lines of the cemetery and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And then this portion right here was what was added in 1997, and they are saying has already reached capacity. This is what our current GIS property owners are listed as in this area. If the intent maybe at some point was to maybe approach one of those families to expand on this being the most obvious parcel here. The reason that I'm so grateful that you reached out, ladies, is because we are next year redoing our entire county plan. And Josh will be facilitating that. So this is a great conversation. I've worked in 27 different states and at least 8 Utah counties. I've never heard of a cemetery taxing entity. Usually they are privately funded by the people whose families are residing in those cemeteries. So I don't know what capacity the commission would have in that respect, because I don't think it's a current acceptable use in Utah State Code to create a taxing entity specifically for cemetery. But I just wanted to give you, Commission, the explanation of my random slides. So, and thank you so much for
And
being here.
just one more thing, we do own some property that is a little bowery down below the cemetery on the hill. We have explored that option, and it's not an option because of the
Because of groundwater? So to repeat that for the video, there's also 5 to 10 foot cement pipes in there that they have put in place for drainage that also prohibit parts of the church-owned property from being able to be expanded as cemetery property. Correct, sir? Thank you.
Thank you.
We have approached the Eldridges. They are not interested in selling part. They want it all to be purchased. There's a small part right here.
Careful, that is a touch screen.
Possibly be used for some, but not that much.
Because of the topography.
Yeah.
It's very steep and
Very
very
steep.
hill.
Yeah. So how does the city, the Morgan South and the Morgan North, how do they fund theirs?
There's through Morgan City.
Yeah,
Morgan
the
City, but
city
is it-
actually owns those. Those are
is it not
municipal
taxed?
owned.
They're not
No, they're
It's not on
funded
the
through
tax.
well,
The
I'm
sale of
assuming through the
plots.
sale of plots.
Donations.
Through the sale of the plots.
So Sandy, from the sale of the plots, is this a corporation or something that you guys have, or?
No, it was the cemetery. In fact, Dad, you want to talk about that? He did come up.
I'm just wondering if there's a basket of money there that's just going to be used for maintenance in future, or if there's some that could be used towards purchasing other land, or?
Yeah, we're open to options. That there is some that has been set aside to help the perpetual care of it. Yeah, it was donated at some point in time. and I
No,
don't
they've
know
tried
when.
to sell it to us several times.
Yeah.
So.
So,
I think you've covered everything that I can think of with it. There's just, our hands are tied. They can't, people are dying to get in there and we don't have any place to put them, you know.
I know they're starting to stack them in other countries and stuff.
So cemetery is a permitted use for special service districts under 17D1201. So that's a possibility. I think one of the ideas I had while you were talking in terms of development and development agreements, if there was we do frequently require open space in terms of larger developments. Cemeteries are a commercial use typically, at least in our jurisdiction, they're permitted in multiple commercial districts. And so a private party could come in and say, I want to take this 20 acres and develop it. You know, Larkin's Mortuary could come up, buy 20 acres and operate a cemetery in some of our commercial districts. Although I don't know in terms of the actual zoning map where that would fit and how it would work. But if there was a public need for it, you could potentially consider special service district. You could, if we gave credit to someone for open space for a cemetery, you might be able to get it in a larger development dedicated to the special service district, so you didn't have to pay for the land, and then the district could fund its operation vis-a-vis their taxing power. So that's just a couple of different ideas that we could think about in terms of addressing the need.
So,
Well, we definitely appreciate you bringing the issue forward so that we can start the conversation, and I'm sure there'll be more conversation regarding it into the future. And something, especially when we talk development, I think there's some things that could be done there that would help that.
Vicky, we'd like you to come with solutions, no problems for us.
Just for clarification purposes, it sounds like every plot has been sold, but not every plot is full, correct? So there's still space for burials if you've already purchased your plot, but if you haven't, you're out of luck right now. Okay. And approximately how full is the cemetery in terms of actual burials? Do you know that?
Yeah, it's about
75%.
75%.
Okay. You've sold a lot of plots more recently, I assume.
Yeah.
A lot more people.
Well, especially when the
thinking
word gets
about-
out that we're low.
Yeah.
And it was just, yeah, they were gone.
You had your Black Friday sale and they all sold.
I talked to my neighbor who said,
So also for clarification, what are you telling people that are reaching out now that are asking for plots? Okay.
Yeah.
Go talk to your county commissioner.
We've given the numbers for the county commissioners.
Thanks. That's kind of a worthless referral right now.
we actually have
Make
a
it-
waiting list to start. We just changed our bylaws, was it a year ago, to require them to make no more than
Okay.
And we have started a waiting list for those who don't want, but I just want that unlike so most of the people know
Well, that's
Thank you
good
for
to
all
know.
your volunteer hours in that
It's
as
not
well.
an inexpensive proposition, but you
You're
could
so
consider,
welcome.
if you can't do underground burial in the other area, the Bowery area, I wonder if you could do mausoleum space.
We've discussed that, but I don't think
That's, the problem with that is that's a huge investment.
it is a huge investment, and, we have found that, or, it's been the trend that is a very rare case for someone from this heritage background. Pretty fast. So, we don't know what we
I would personally prefer heated mausoleum space as opposed to ground and lime green.
That's what I wish too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.
Okay, we will move to action item F6. Mr. Turner, you're up.
This is gonna be short and sweet, I hope. Basically, all I need from you guys is a signed match letter so that I can continue to move forward with the pre-disaster mitigation plan. Basically, the plan is just acknowledging what we have for potential disasters in the county. And it's a list that we can use to go out and do more mitigation projects and stuff like that. looking for is just an agreement that we will fund our portion of the match, which is, I don't have it right in front of me, it's like
$12,500.
$12,500. It's about $50,000. We're gonna go out and get a company to come in and help us.
So, Austin,
Yes.
is this different than the one we did with Bragg?
Yes. Oh, let me take that back. No, it's the same one.
It's just an update of it.
Just an update?
Every 5 years we have to update it. My bad. I apologize. It's the exact same thing as Brad. They just want us to have it updated every 5 years.
Every 5 years, and yet we approved it in my term. So that means it shouldn't be coming up for a couple of years.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're going through the process to do the update. It was approved January 12th or 20th of 2022. So we've got till 2027 to do it. We're just starting the process right now so that we can tell the state we've got the money. We promise we'll pay our 25% of it. They'll front 75% of it, and we'll start the process. We'll have meetings where people can come and say, we are concerned about whatever. Mostly flooding is the biggest thing in Morgan. A little bit on earthquakes, hazardous materials that travel through, stuff like that.
Where will the matching dollars be coming from? We have this.
Did we already budget for
budget for it?
Yes.
That was part of the budget request for emergency management.
Okay, perfect. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Turner?
We have disasters in the county?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve and move forward with the execution of the match letter and funds commitment for the pre-disaster mitigation plan. With one change, I would add a date to the letter.
That's a good idea. I like that. We can do that.
I'll second.
With the motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Austin. All right, action item F7. Josh, this is a plat amendment. Sorry, Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Plot is
Plat.
application 24.030. The applicant is Todd Platt, who I see in the audience tonight. The project's location is 4410 South Highway 66 and is part of the J&L subdivision. The acreage affected will be 1.06 lots. That is the current J&L Lot 2, the subject property, being at 1.01 acres, and with a transfer of a sale from a adjacent parcel owner to the west, southwest, I suppose, being 0.05 acres, being the total acreage affected with the request for tonight. The Planning Commission heard this on their regularly scheduled meeting on October 1st. Discussion was minimal for that. There weren't very many questions. The Planning Commission recommended unanimously to recommend approval to this body with a vote of 5-0, with Member McMillan being absent from that meeting. Staff conducted a review of this item with reviews including the planning office, county engineer, and the county surveyor, all providing comments and finding that this plat amendment meets all of the minimum code requirements from our code for amending a plat, in this case the J&L subdivision plat. And again, staff is recommending approval of this item and can answer any questions that you, Mr. Chair, have or from the rest of the commission. Thank you.
Jeremy, I just had one question myself, and that was, I see the new Lot 101, which is formerly Lot 1, I guess, on the previous application. It's obviously getting smaller, but I don't see the new Lot 2 shown here. I do see, though, that this says page 15 of 16, and there's not a 16 of 16, so perhaps it just didn't get included.
If you click that link, you get the whole. That's the current recorded plat. That's.
Yeah, it's actually lot 2 that's being amended, not lot 1.
Well,
And
technically, they both are, right? You're amending the common boundary between lots 1 and 2?
no, lot 2 is having a triangle piece added to it from an adjacent property owner over here.
Oh, it's the back. Okay.
That's correct.
'Cause I
was
misread
not
that
seeing
too
that.
last-
That's
that
why
last
I was
night.
confused. Okay. I thought
So
it was between the two lots.
This lot 101 is formerly lot 2.
So when it's actually recorded, it'll be lot 2A.
Okay.
It's just, this is how the surveyor put it on the survey.
Right, and so this,
It's from that dotted line back.
yeah,
on
okay,
the
that's
back.
the expanded portion of existing lot 2.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
The back portion was not part of a subdivision at all. My understanding is that the neighbor put up a fence, didn't want to move it to the property line, and chose to sell it to the Platts.
So they're getting an extra 0.07 acres.
About 2,000 square feet.
Correct.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
I have a question for you, Josh or Jeremy. So this subdivision is a long time ago subdivision, is that correct?
Maybe in the
Because
70s or
in the where, 70s?
60s or 70s. I can't remember.
1995, it looks like it was recorded.
Okay, so that means that as far as the requirements to have the well, 1.5 to 1.75 acres for Weaver Basin, not Weaver Basin, Weaver Morgan Health Department, is that invalid now? Can they build on it still?
No, they're getting Weaver Morgan Health Department approval. You have a legal developable lot, which is part of a subdivision, so they can't prohibit the development. So they're going through that process. They are also going through, since it's a new build, they're also going through the geohazards ordinance as well. They may have qualified for a waiver. I'd have to double
They
check.
did qualify for it.
Okay.
I was just curious how it was working when we had that requirement.
Yeah, it would be a mistake to prohibit the development of a legal developable lot that's part of a legal recorded plat.
Just curious, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Applicant's not here, so if there are no further questions, we'll look for a motion in a second.
Were there any conditions on this?
No, this has gone through 3 separate reviews, and as far as I know, they've addressed all engineering and surveying comments.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the JNL subdivision First Amendment application number 24.030, approximately located at 4410 South Highway 66 near Porterville, based on the findings listed in the staff report dated October 15th, 2024.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, we have postponed action item number 8. Action item number 9, I'm going to request that we postpone, and I'll explain why here momentarily. So I spoke with Tony London on the city council yesterday, day before yesterday, regarding this item. Their last council meeting was canceled, so they have not had a chance to discuss as a city council, and we want to make sure that we're in sync with them. So I would prefer that we hold on this one, time-wise, that it won't matter, and we can wait both to order the bins and to change the fee structure. So
Can we order just the
Are we
bins
wanting
now?
to postpone it to October 29th?
yes.
I was gonna say, can't we just go ahead with the approval to, no, we can't, not until they approve it, never mind.
I think I'd feel more comfortable knowing for sure what their where they're leaning. Even if they don't give a full approval, I think we ought to at least know which direction they're going to lean. Because if we are, if on different sides of this, we need to have a discussion to make sure we sync up or decide we're gonna do it separately, but this is a possibility.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we postpone Resolution CR 24-82 until our October 29th meeting.
Second.
Motion to postpone, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes, thank you. All right, that brings us to action item F10. Kate.
Just letting you know that the Cobblestone Hotel and Suites has new ownership. It closed yesterday. I have not heard yet. That was pretty tight-lipped with the city who bought it. I've messaged Ty, haven't got a response yet. There are 2 new owners out of Mountain Green that have purchased Round Valley Golf Course as well. That was last month. Any questions on those 2 things? Okay. So the county has not, so per state statute, Janelle, who's my victim, because she's sitting in the audience, if Janelle, our county assessor, was hit by a school bus and unfortunately perished, technically by statute, her chief deputy would hold her office until the party appointed. We have not designated in the county our elected offices who their chief deputies are. It was my understanding that previous administration did not want people allocated as chief deputies because they thought it would cause a rift in the offices between employees. And I just, for statutory reasons, should someone resign or just be completely physically, mentally incapacitated and or pass away, we really need that designated. So that's my request to the commission, for me to go to my elected officials, specifically, assessor, sheriff, recorder, and have them designate on letterhead who their chief deputy is, so that we have that on file. But knowing that a previous administration was against that, I didn't want to do that without consent.
That makes sense to me.
If it's a
Objections?
statutory requirement, we need to move forward.
Well, I mean, it's a statutory requirement. It's not like it's required that you have one, but if you don't have one, the office is in upheaval until the party appoints, and that usually takes 6 weeks. So
it's not a statutory requirement.
it's a statutory requirement.
Not a statutory requirement, but there is, in the statute, it does designate 2 options. One where a deputy is appointed and one where it's not. And the one where it's appointed is much more clear.
Sorry, there you go. Listen to the attorney.
Statutorily preferred.
Statutorily preferred, there you go. So that would just be something on letterhead. We keep it in our HR office unless you want it done by resolution, or I don't know why that would be necessary. We just wanted to have it at least signed off on with, and witnessed maybe by the clerk auditor. So
Well, and I think it's useful to have it be the recommendation of the existing department head. You want to act as the chief deputy.
Right. So, and it could change as that changes as well. So that was that. And then the last, are you driving, Jeremy? Can you script down? Are you driving? Can you go down to my Operation Greenlight? Scroll.
It's page 98.
Yeah. It's actually page 102.
Just keep going.
Because that's before she put her, one more up. There you go. So Operation Greenlight is something that started with NACO a couple years ago. It was actually a county in New York that started it shortly after COVID. And essentially the week of Veterans Day, you light county buildings, county structures up with green lights in support of veterans. And just asking if we may participate in that, which is essentially purchasing the green light bulbs and changing them out for the 4th through the 11th.
What's the cost going to be?
It depends on how many bulbs we have. So, and what buildings you want to light up or not light up. If you just want it to be the county building, if you want it to be the county and library.
So you're talking exterior lights.
Correct.
We have that many exterior lights.
We
Might have to get a
have to if we have a
projector of
light.
the green
So,
light.
so the United States flag cannot be in the dark. So I know all of our U.S. flags are lit. So there's filters for those, which is a lot easier than changing out the bulbs. But if we do have external lights, it's just asking if we can participate in this. You can give me a budget and I'll stick to it. I don't.
I don't have an issue with participating. I would hope
Jeremy
we
is
can do
saying
it
there's
for a
lights over
reasonable
all the
budget.
entrance doors.
I don't
There's,
know if it's reasonable. $200 probably.
I don't even think it would exceed
Yeah, and
that.
I don't know how many there are either. I know Brett at one time said there were not that many lights.
Yeah, they're over our entrance doors for sure, and there's 5 entrances to this building.
But what we can do is, I'm just wondering if you could continue with LED lights, if they make them green.
Or we can just get the individual, like, lawn lights that light up your building and just put those out for... Saying the same thing. Yeah, just for
Might be
that
the
week.
easiest way to do it.
They'll look great on our beautiful
Like the
tan
projected
yellow
Christmas
building.
lights?
Yeah, like those.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
You're not gonna do that for $200. No. But
I would be perfectly happy with a $200 budget. I just was wondering if we could participate, and I can pay for it out of my...
I think that's fine, and I think there's money in our supplies budget that we haven't touched, so.
Agreed.
Good question, any concern?
I agree.
And then the last couple meetings, I've been putting upcoming events for you. I did not put in the upcoming planning commission because it was subject to change. So, planning commission chair Debbie, would you let us know what your new meeting schedule is? Do you know that now? Didn't you guys vote on a amended schedule on Thursday? You're meeting this Thursday instead of next Thursday. Okay. So the changes in the planning commission meetings are that is this Thursday, this coming Thursday instead of next Thursday. And the December meeting has moved from the 5th to the 12th. Thank you. Other than that, these are all community events. Our push-in is slated for November 9th. That's the fire engine event. I believe that is a Saturday. Yes. And so it's going to be from 11 to 1, but the physical push-in of the fire engine will be at noon. And I have all of you except for Commissioner McConnell registered for your USAC, including your rooms. And if you're able to attend, we're doing a joint meeting of Community and Economic Opportunity Board, TTAB and ATAB, November 18th at 6 p.m. Just so we can align resources and our priorities.
that was what date?
November 18th, it's a Monday at 6 p.m. That's usually when ATAB would meet. So I just tried to, I think you guys start at 6:30, but tried to schedule it around that same time. And that's all I have.
So would you want to include in that outdoor recreation?
We don't have an outdoor recreation board.
No, we don't, but we have an outdoor recreation director.
Yeah, she's invited.
Okay, I just wanted her to be there because all of those pertain to
Yes.
economic, TTAB,
Yep, she's
and ATAB.
she's already on the TTAB email list.
Okay. Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, we'll move to commissioner comments. Commissioner Anderson?
All I've got is I'll send out an email to everybody and the group that was involved last time, but the firm that's doing our FEMA floodplain analysis within the basically city boundary and then county fairground area, they're ready to present their preliminary findings. So I'll let you guys know when they plan to have that meeting and for all those who want to attend. That's all I've got.
Excellent, thank you. I just had one item, and that was, there was a request from the Double Slide Cement Plant for a letter of support. We did one a little over a year ago for the exact same thing, and there was approval to do it then, so I assume that was approval to do it again. So I did send them an updated letter, just FYI, supporting their project. That's all I had. Commissioner Fackrell?
Nothing.
Okay. Commissioner McConnell?
On the Nine Lines proposal, it sounds like we have general agreement on letting them move forward, but Kate and Garrett will need to, I think that will require a site plan adjustment in connection with their lease.
Okay.
So let's, I don't know, maybe we'll coordinate with Joss.
Is this the Buster?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the YCC executive director is going to retire at the end of this year. If you're aware of someone that's interested in being the executive director of YCC, then have them get in touch, and I'll put them in touch with the agency that's running that.
I know a
search.
land use attorney that's retiring from the county commission.
Yeah, but I'm not interested in being the executive director of the YCC. It would be a completely different step. It's a
Really
dance I
caught you by
probably
surprise,
couldn't
didn't it?
effectively do.
He was like, "Who's that?"
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wilson?
Both of my meetings are this week, so I don't have anything from WHS or local homeless council. I do have a situation that I don't know exactly what I should do, so I guess I just need some guidance on what we need to do on this. This has to do with our Milton Park that watered someone else's hay, and then they were trying to bale it, and it was ready, and then they got watered by us, and then the baler burned a bale, had to do some other stuff and readjustments.
So we
Springs.
accidentally watered
So-
their hay fields, and when they went to bale what they thought was dry hay, we jammed their baler and it broke a bell. Okay.
And
So I talked to Brett about this because he mentioned it to me, and we water that park with sprinklers. It's not flood irrigated.
Correct.
But apparently there was water, surface water, in the gentleman's field, as I understand it. Brett believed that
Apparently
it came
he's-
from someplace else and not from the park, because our sprinklers wouldn't put out enough water to do that. And they don't spray enough onto his field that it would wet any more than maybe a few feet of hay. So I'm surprised that the claim is that there was enough of the hay wet to jam a baler.
Okay, well,
I don't know
I
the
will
details,
try and
but that
get
was
more
Brett's-
details, but my understanding was that they had asked us several times to readjust our sprinklers because it was sprinkling there. And you know, if it was on several hours, it could definitely get hay wet enough to.
The hay that's laid down already.
Correct.
Already.
So
Well, it
what-
sounds like we need a little more info.
And then what is their ask?
I'll get more info. It's a $893 bill.
Guess tractor more expensive.
Removed the right side gearbox, pulled the clutch assembly off and shaft, changed the fiber discs, reassembled on shaft, tension springs, reconnected chain, timed the knives, ran swather, everything was working good. So I guess it was swather.
Swather.
That doesn't make any sense to me. That's not what he told me.
If it's a swather, it'd
Right.
It's
not-
standing hay.
It's standing, which
Right
doesn't
through
make
it.
sense. If it's laying down, that kind of makes sense.
He told me it was a baler.
Sounds like we need lots of more.
Wrong machine.
I'll find
New
out
invoice.
more info and come back. Guess I should have read that last thing. Swather.
I mean,
Okay.
I
Anything
know
else,
we're-
Senator?
just a quick thought on
Oh,
that,
go
sorry. I know it depends on what's happening in that, but I still think we're more than reasonable if it is a county item that we created an issue with to deal with it, you know, so.
Okay.
If we did, I don't disagree if causation is proven.
Agreed. Yeah, as long as there's proof of that. Okay. Guess that's it.
Not a mess.
We're gonna go ahead and declare this meeting adjourned. Look at that, 6:30? How did we do that? That was a
Hurry
long
and
agenda.
run out of here before somebody says something.
Well, I know it feels long because we started at 3, but the meeting itself was actually